Hey restorers, got a one handle height adjustment Craftsman mower. This is the one where you can adjust this lever and it moves all the four wheels. It's a nice little feature, although as they get older they tend to have a problem holding the height. Back wheels had a clunking noise to them, so I assumed that it was something with either the wheel, the gear, the transmission. I went through all that. Still couldn't get that figured out. So, hear that clunking sound, which I would think was a gear not meshing, but like I said, when I took the wheels off, looked at the gears or spun the wheels by themselves, there was no problem. So I just, out of luck or whatever, I just happened to move this down to a lower setting. I didn't have that. High setting. And the higher I go, the worse it is. So, it became a question of, why is it fine at this height and a problem when it's raised up? So I started to look into this adjustment lever here. YouTube, continuing to work on this self-propelled mower. So I pulled these are the bearings inside the sleeve, or I don't know exactly what the part is, but on the one side you could see it's in pretty good condition. On the other side they're the same, so you could see how this one, with the movement, how it was rubbing against the side of the mower. You can see how this actually wore itself out. There's a little groove here for a little E-ring that's actually opened up on this side. So you could go and replace this whole part. All these bearings, they work perfectly. You know, it's kind of hard to rotate them, but they are working. Actually, I re-greased them too. You could pop these covers off. Even though they're sealed, you could pop these off and repack it with grease, so I did that. You can see how that one's working fine. This one's working fine. Yeah, you could just replace this, but this mower is, it's I think at 12 years old or something like that. It's not going to be worth that much, so I can actually just repair this, because once I put it in there, it's not going to move. So really what I just need to do is kind of fill in the material that's wore out of here. And what I use is you can use any kind of epoxy. This is a JB Weld. This is just a regular 2-part. This isn't the steel reinforced, but it's still got 3,900 psi strength. So like I said, because this is not really structural in the sense that it's holding things together, it's just filling in this gap basically so it sets in there correctly. As you can see, it's kind of not straight. Okay, you can see the wear in there. Even this one shows a little wear, but it's not excessive like this one. So basically just going to get the 2-part epoxy, fill this all in, then I'm going to let it cure up, then come back, sand this down, and I'll probably have to cut that groove back in there in order to get that E-ring in there. So at this point it's fairly simple. Just going to get the epoxy, put it on here, mix it up, and then just apply it to the surface there. Doing video editing and stuff like that, I tried to do some videos using some software that I had to do some home video editing, but it didn't work. So anyway, this is just a attempt on this. So basically we're just going to get this on here, apply it, and then try to smooth it in. as we go around here. Now, I may put a little bit more on, and then because I can come back and sand this down, which I'm going to have to do anyway. So this does not have to be perfect. Obviously you don't want a whole lot of excess because that's a whole lot of more work. Now I'm actually going to fill in this section, even though I got to cut back the gonna have to cut back that hole in there for the E-ring. Now I did try this. I was out of epoxy, so I did try just another glue that I had. It wasn't a two-part, and it bonded to the metal fine, but it just didn't, it was still, it wasn't hard, I guess you could say, like in epoxy, so didn't really have structural integrity to it. So that's why I came back and I was able to just peel it off, put this on. So I mean, this stuff will start to set up, but initially it's gonna almost kind of run, sag, if you will, with gravity. So that's why I say I might put a little bit more on in certain spots, and if it does run, you know, and it's not perfect in some spots and okay in others, it's still okay because it's not really structural here. I mean, it's structural to this part, but it's not structural overall. It's holding the mower together. That's kind of the gist of it. I also did this on a self-propel, on the actual propel shaft that was wore in, because uses a different type of bearing and actually wore into the shaft itself. So I filled it, and I had that on one of my other videos. So basically we're just going to let this dry up, come back, sand it out, cut this little groove in here for the E-ring, the E-clip, and take it from there. Okay, so here we are. Epoxy's dried up, and I ground down the high spots. Came up pretty well, filled in around this groove where this was wore out. And I did have wear in the plate where this attaches. So if you look at this, see that little extra epoxy? I was wondering how I could adjust for that. Originally I was thinking the plate that this attaches to, I put the extra epoxy on there, but it's going to be kind of hokey as far as how well it'll adhere, so it actually works out better. So we'll see when this goes in. It's going to actually, because that plate had oblonged out. So what I did was I got a little thing to make a template. I marked the top, see, top and bottom, and that's the side. So it's a little oblong here. That's where I put these marks. So right here I marked this point and the top and the bottom. So now when it fits in like this, when it goes on the plate, this will basically lock in. Flip it over so you can see how this right here, that should fill that gap. So what was happening was this was shifting. The plate was like this, the whole bearing slipped and disengaged. So continuing on with this reassembly, these are the bearings. I got them back in here. I didn't show the reassembly because it was kind of pretty long process, because this plate actually, because it's a one lever, it's actually welded to this piece over here. So you actually had to disassemble this side, push it down, shove it through this end here to get it off the shaft on this side, and then go back and get it off the shaft on that side. But it goes back together. But one thing I can say is that if you can go to your model number and look up the parts list for the mower that you're working on, because this one I found must have been disassembled and assembled incorrectly. There's a washer that was on this end that didn't belong here, actually belonged over on this side. And this lever, this shift handle, see where it is now, it was actually in front of, there's a little snap ring, it's actually in front of that. So I think that was part of the problem, why this plate wouldn't lock in, because there was no pressure on it. So basically, because it was taken apart and put together wrong, it probably created this problem. But right now, I go to the higher setting and I try to move this, there isn't any movement. What was happening before was, if you look at these 2 points, you got the axle and then you got where the gear is. So this distance has to stay the same for it to mesh. And what would happen is, it's a little oblong right here. So as this got higher, locked in, the pressure of the wheel, you push this plate in closer on this side. And actually, if you think about it, here's the gearing. The wheel is out here with the teeth. So as you push the wheel away, this way, you're disengaging those gears. So when you got down to the lower setting, the weight of the wheel would be here, which would actually pull it this way, which would engage it better. So right now what we got, can't move it because there's that little extra epoxy in there. And this is actually, this lever arm is on correctly. It's actually applying pressure here now to hold this plate. So I'm just going to do the rest of the assembly. Not going to show all that, it's just putting the gears on here and the wheel and cover and all that. And then I'll just show you what it looks like in the end. Okay, well, I got everything back on. I got the wheels back. Both sides. Now, before we were down low like this, and we were meshing real good. Get it up about halfway. Started getting some clicking. The higher you went, the worse it got. So yeah, there we are. It was definitely assembled wrong, especially this plate here, because when I got the gears in here, the way it's set up before, I actually had to put an extra washer in on the outside, and now I didn't need this. This was added in by me, but now because this plate is pushed out more, it's not needed. So yeah, this was messed up. This plate was in the wrong place. There's the clip and then a washer right here. This washer was on the opposite side. It was supposed to be over here. Side over here doesn't use a washer, just the E-clip. So yeah, when you're dealing with a used mower, unknown condition, you don't know what somebody might have done to it. So anyway, this thing is done, and just probably do a little startup on it when I get the handle assembly and all that here. Okay, last part of the video here is a final look and start on this. Set at the middle height. No more clunking. And a one-handed start.